Welcome, r/entitled parents. You don't want veggies in your chicken soup. Got it, kids? My kids can be picky eaters at times. My wife made some damn good chicken soup, but the kids were complaining that there were veggies in their chicken soup. They hate veggies. Veggies make them sick, and they wanted my wife to pick them out of the soup. We tried to tell them that good chicken soup needs veggies to taste good, but they were being stubborn. I'm sure other parents can understand. I told the kids, if you really hate the taste of veggies, I'll make soup tomorrow, and you guys can make sure I only put stuff in you like. They liked that idea at the time. The next day, I get the pot filled with water, all the typical soup ingredients out, and gathered the kids. I asked for their approval on every item. Chicken, yes. Salt, yes. Black pepper, no. Gross. Too spicy. Celery, no. I can't even stand the smell. Onions, no. It went on with that, with them rejecting parsley, bay leaves, and other veggies. The total contents of the pot ended up being chicken, water, salt, noodles. After the soup was done cooking, I served it up, and they excitedly started to eat. A few funny faces later, and one of them said it tastes weird. This isn't very good. I said, but I only put in everything you guys approved. I think, from now on, I should make the soup, right? They looked at each other and said, can we have mom's soup instead? Since that day, they haven't complained about finding veggies mixed in the food. Sure, they almost always eat around a carrot or green pea, but they understand that it adds flavor. Love it. Reminds me of when my former so complained that I put too much garlic and onion in the pasta sauce, and surely the vinegar, honey, pepper and other herbs were not necessary, so I let him make a sauce from scratch one day, just as he thought it should be. There were Italian herbs in there, and salt, but nothing to spice it up, nothing to add the touch of sweet, sour and savory that makes it also delicious. He eagerly started to eat, and his face fell immediately. This tastes like cardboard. Never complained about my recipes again. Instead, he jokingly started complaining on how I ruined his appetite for prefab pasta sauces in jars and he only ever wanted mine anymore. Haha. I think I spoiled my parents on my spaghetti sauce. The journey began maybe 6 years or so ago, when my mom and I were talking in the car on the way to some movie. I was complaining how it seemed like all my dad ever cooked was spaghetti, and it was always with Prego brand sauce. We were talking about how her mom's spaghetti sauce was top notch. Sadly we had no recipe, so my mom decided to try to put one together from memory. I told her I remembered it having meat, onions, bell peppers, and mushrooms. I clearly remembered the mushrooms. She came pretty damn close, but still needed something. When I moved out a year later, I began working on a homemade sauce of my own design. Using her recipe as a foundation, I soon came up with a sauce recipe that would rival many Italian restaurants. It has a few cheats, like Italian sausage, canned tomatoes, San Marzano style, say, canned mushrooms, sometimes used fresh, depending on my mood, and of course the controversial bell peppers, but it's awesome. Also took a little inspiration from The Godfather and added a cup of sweet red wine and 1/8 cup of sugar. Usually made it in the crock pot, but lately have been doing it on the stove. Think I'll make some more this weekend. Picky eater here, father to two picky, but one as picky as me eater. I don't like it. I wish I had the ability to eat more, but it becomes complicated when it became psychosomatic. That is why my pickier eater is not getting away like I did, and has become much better at eating a variety of foods. Anyway, when I was small, we were at family day at the Air Force Base, and we are having lunch. I was full of dread, and they served meatloaf. Now I've been working on eating, and not gagging / worse, and I was able to eat meatloaf. I no longer can. It's horrifying to me, but anyway, my dad would load his homemade up on black pepper. When we yelled that this was way better than my dad's, so many heads turned it was not funny. We put him on the spot for sure and laughter came. It was not a big deal, and no repercussions came about because he was generally well liked and personable. Sorry about the way this is written, I'm not very good with English. I like this, and I'm going to use it as a life lesson someday, if it ever comes up. Thank you. Also I totally bribe my kid when it comes to food. He loves fruits and veggies, but the only meat he likes is chicken and ham. Whenever I make something he hasn't tried before, or something prepared in a way he hasn't tried, I tell him, if he eats 3 good bites he can say a potty word. Potty words being words he isn't allowed to say normally, like cuss words or mean words. He'll eat his 3 bites and yell poo-oop as loud as he can. It's hilarious. Honestly, my family is very well rounded in food varieties. My parents made us grow up on the matter of how important healthy foods are, and ever since a young age my mother always fed us veggies, so it was never something new to complain about. Even my toddler sister begs to always eat veggies and fruits. She refuses to eat candy and even politely offers others her sweets. Anyways, just make them understand the importance, and give many examples of what happens to people that don't have balanced diets. Edit. It's when my children first began going to their fathers for weekend visitation, I got constant complaints about how mean I was, because I didn't let them eat the things daddy did. It was difficult enough being a broke-ass single mom of 3 kids without the constant comparison of how much better dad was. So I decided to let them pick whatever they wanted from the grocery store, then eat whatever, whenever, they wanted at home. I'll never forget their joy that first morning as they were having ice cream and Mountain Dew for breakfast. It took about 3 days of no food rules for the stomach aches and poop fest to kick in. My children literally never complained about food again. I've never been a picky eater. I'll eat literally anything. Always have been that way. The only exception are things people in North America wouldn't normally eat. It's never been tested, but I've seen pictures of delicacies from other cultures and they are a no from me. Like if you're eating grasshoppers or something, I'm out. Extra ingredients and spices always make things better. Ever since I started cooking, or at least modifying, food myself, I've leveled up the spice so much. I'll buy macaroni and add in sausage and onions and peppers and so many spices and then drown it in hot sauce, and I'm salivating so much just from typing this. I primarily ate my mom's cooking growing up, and she was very mild on the spices. At first I burned from a tiny amount, but over the years it increased astronomically. I should do this to the next person who tells me they don't like onion or garlic or whatever spices, etc. Unless you have an allergy, yes you bloody do. They are in every nice dish you have ever eaten. You don't like people who overdo those flavors, and that's completely fine. Another favorite are those against MSG, something no more harmful than salt. Less even. I'm not aware of anybody actually having a documented issue with normal amount of MSG in food. The stigma is so bad you can't even buy it from major supermarkets here. Gotta hit up the Asian grocers. People have no clue what they actually like about food, it seems. My kids went through the picky stage too. They're grown now. With my kids I just agreed to chunk up anything they didn't like fairly large, and they could pick out whatever they wanted. Except meatloaf. I used to put pureed veggies in meatloaf, but I never hid it. They even liked to help me make it. Around the time my kids started the picky stage, there was an article in a science magazine about changes in taste buds over a person's life. I made sure to show it to my kids and just explain, well, my taste buds are at a different stage, so of course I'm going to like different things a bit to what you like. Then I encourage them to keep tasting things periodically to see if perhaps their perception of them had changed since last they tried whatever it was. Other than that, I never made them eat things. They could always go make their own peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but I wasn't going to cook anything specially just for them. Now they are grown with their own kids going through picky stages. One of them won't eat tomatoes, which she says is a textural thing, but loves ketchup on fries and spaghetti and pizza with tomato-based sauces. The other ones, I don't know of anything they won't eat. They willingly try most anything. They love sushi, most vegetables, beans, and all things seafood. Working on getting the grandchildren to that point now, and I will definitely pass on your approach. Who knows? It just might work. I was a very picky eater when I was a kid, and one of the things that stuck with me is that I'm not a fan of mushy, tasteless veggies, especially in soup. I would always ask for simply broth, chicken, and potatoes, and it was never an issue. My grandmother would also blend onions into dishes and always serve a small portion of fresh veggies with lime, salt and pepper with every meal. You could say that they all catered to my taste and you wouldn't be wrong. But as I grew to love cooking myself, I realized that is exactly what cooking with love is. You don't have to follow a recipe like it's written in stone. You tweak it and tailor it to fit the tastes of the people you're serving. I make tons of soups. I could even say it's a bit of an obsession of mine. All the veggies and spices go into the quick pot to give their flavor and nutrients to the broth. I often save scraps from other dishes and salads to avoid waste as well. Then the broth is strained and the soup comes together. If I decide I want veggies in my soup that day, I blanch them just to get them tender while they still retain some crunch. You could try experimenting with your picky eaters and find ways to prepare the things they don't like in a way that could open up their tastes so that they don't just eat around veggies and let those things go to waste. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit like. If you would like to see more, feel free to subscribe.